Welcome to the Empowered Women channel with your host, Coach Dapo Lipidi. Coach Dapo, a certified leadership coach and author, brings you the Word of God today. It is our hope that today's message will encourage and empower you to do great things in your life. Be blessed as you listen.
Thank you for joining me on the Empowered Man channel. Again, this is your host, Coach Dapo Lipidi. It's a pleasure to welcome you again to today's talk on health. Remember, we started a series on health for women. And I have another doctor with me today, a special guest, to talk to us about what I'm going to call heart matters. Your heart matters, my heart matters. So, our doctor is going to be talking to us about our hearts and how our hearts matter. I have with me today Dr. Gbolahan Ogunbayo. Welcome, Dr. Ogunbayo.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Ogunbayo before we start to ask him questions. He earned his medical degree at Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria. However, he completed his residency at Rochester General Hospital in New York, where he was the chief resident of internal medicine. And there he also founded the EKG Club. He also completed a fellowship in general and interventional cardiology. Oh my God, you see, he's very qualified. He's a cardiologist at the UK Healthcare's Gill Heart and Vascular Institute. He's board certified by the American Board of Internal Medicine. He's certified in internal medicine, cardiology, and interventional cardiology. He's an active member of the American College of Cardiology, Association of Black Cardiologists, the American Heart Association, and Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Medical Society. So with us today is somebody who's very special, very knowledgeable, and he's going to be helping us to navigate the health waters. In his free time, one thing about Dr. Ogunbayo is that he enjoys watching sports. He loves to spend time with his family. He has 3 lovely girls that he spends a lot of time with. And he loves to travel and take pictures as well. So it's not just a case of work, because all work and no play makes Dr. Ogunbayo dull, but he's not dull at all. And so he's going to be talking to us about our hearts, heart matters. Our topic today is heart matters. And Dr. Ogunbayo, again, welcome. I stumbled on something. I'm going to read it to you. It says, the author is unknown, but it says you have only one heart. So make sure that you give all your attention to its well-being. We all know that the heart is the key of life. Once the heart stops, that's it. But as women, in the last 1 year, I decided to take care of my health. But in the last 1 year, I've also had of women just dropping dead from heart issues, from high blood pressure. I heard of a lady whose blood pressure was 150 over 100 or 110 on a Friday. By Sunday, she had died from complications. So talk to us a little bit about the heart. It's the key to life. What can we do to keep our hearts healthy?
Thank you very much for having me. That's a very loaded question. I think if we decide to do justice to that question, that might be the only question we have
And
an
that's
opportunity
fine.
to talk about.
That's fine.
But a lot of times people don't realize that, like everything else, you start to take care of your heart from the very beginning.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm not talking about when you are a baby and you don't know what's going on. I'm talking about the beginning of your own existence, your family history.
Okay.
A lot of times people don't pay attention to their family history, not knowing that in some cases, a bad family history is all you need to have in order to get yourself into troubled waters in terms of your heart. So taking care of your heart actually starts from knowing your risk of heart disease. which starts from your family history.
Okay, tell me more.
I'm from Nigeria, and in Nigeria there is a sect or a set of people that they call abiku, which in English means you give birth to them and they die.
Right.
And we grew up, at least I grew up, thinking that that was actually a thing. Now, my knowledge of cardiology now makes me know there's some diseases that runs in different families where their heart has a defect that makes them just die suddenly.
Wow.
So, instead of the cultural belief that there's certain kids that are destined to die because their sibling died or their family, their dad died, and so that same thing is going to happen to them, is more of born out of ignorance rather than actually knowing that this child is going to die just because the dad or the mom died at a certain age. So knowing that fact, now there are things that you should be able to do to prevent what we call sudden cardiac death, which
Okay,
means
so
the
hold on,
patient just
doctor.
dies.
Hold on. What I'm hearing is that people who just drop dead from heart trouble may have a history of heart issues in their families.
Absolutely.
And so
There's
we
some
need to go
diseases.
back and check.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just even going back to the simple things, high blood pressure.
Okay.
I like to explain to my patients, and I'm going to use an example that I can find here. This is a hand sanitizer, but I like to describe, heart problems. Let's say a heart attack. You would have a heart attack when the fluid in here overflows.
Okay.
When people are born and they have a family history of, say, heart attack, depending, this fluid may already be here, just knowing your family history, because you might have a family history of diabetes, a family history of hypertension, a family history of high cholesterol, a family history of heart attacks, of parents, siblings at an early age. So before you even do anything, your cup or your bottle is almost tipping or filling over. So now compare that with someone who is from a family where they don't have any of this. So his bottle is probably all the way down here when they're born.
Okay.
So imagine the person whose family history has gotten him here, a little bit of not watching what you eat, a little bit of obesity, a little bit of smoking, he has a heart attack or she has a heart attack. Now, revert back and talk about the person who started from here. Smoking, drinking, doing everything bad possible, obese, not eating right. Sometimes they don't even get to the summit or the top of this bottle. And so I realized that in talking to many patients, I have patients that may look on paper like they are probably going to have a heart attack. They may never get to that threshold. And it might be someone that is relatively healthy, tries to eat right, but smokes and is just a little overweight, and that person has a heart attack. And in religious fairs, people talk about God not being fair. But do you know your family history? That makes a whole world of difference in terms of how you approach things. So if I know that my dad had a heart attack at age 33, my mom had a heart attack at age 40, I need to start making changes to take care of my heart way different, way earlier than someone of my age whose parents did not have the same thing. And that's the first thing, know your family history.
Okay, so know my family history. Well, good news is I know my family history, and there are some interesting things in my family history. But besides knowing my family history, what are some of the things that I need to know as a woman, especially as a woman particularly? We're talking about empowered women here. And the Bible says in 3 John chapter 1, verse 2, that God desires that we prosper and be in health, right? And so what are some things that I, as a woman, should do once I know my family history? So, for example, if my mother had high blood pressure, or she had diabetes, or she had whatever it is that she may have had, that's a warning signal for me, right? But once I know my family history, what are some things that I need to do to help me keep my heart healthy? I heard you say something about diet, smoking.
Correct.
Okay.
So once you know your family history, then you can know how to attack things. Now, if you don't know your family history, it does not mean, even if you know your family history and you think that you're protected, every single woman needs to now take the second step, which is, what are the things that I can control that if I can get a hang of would reduce my risk for having heart problems? Now, granted, there's some things we cannot change. We cannot change the fact that we get older every day.
Correct.
You know, we cannot change the parents that birthed us.
Mm-hmm.
But the things that we can change, like they say, prevention is better than cure, is what are the things that increase our risk for heart disease? Our diet. What are we eating?
Okay.
What are we putting in our mouth?
Okay.
What are we drinking?
Mm.
How much are we eating and how much are we drinking? Because it's not just about the quantity, it's also about the quality of what we eat.
Okay.
The next thing is,
when you talk about quality
yeah,
and quantity, right? I, for example, I don't eat bread. For somebody who eats bread, how many slices would be too much when we're talking about quantity? And then talking about quality, when I used to eat bread, I actually had bread the other day because somebody had bread in the house. And I just had a craving for bread. But typically I don't eat bread. And it was the bread was made from seeds. Tasted very nice. Now, when we're talking about quantity and quality, that's just an example. How many slices can I eat?
Well, that's a loaded question. And I say it's a loaded question because, as you know, there's gluten-free bread, there's this bread, there's that bread.
Yes.
And I tell my patients, which takes us to something else, that, you know, when people go to the store to buy things, they look at the front of what they buy because that's where the picture is.
Right.
But the truth about it is the back of that food that you're buying is actually where the truth is. And so there could be a difference on the same aisle, in the same grocery store. You can buy a loaf of bread. One slice is 60 calories. And you walk a few steps down and you can buy another loaf of bread and the same one slice is 220 calories.
Wow.
So there's a huge difference, and a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people go to the store. You know, there was a day I was talking to someone about fast food, and the person was like, how can you give your child this stuff to eat? You know, blah, 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 blah. In the same vein, I saw that person buying fast food from a different fast food place. And so I went online and I compared both of them. And I'm like, look how much you're complaining that I'm buying, but look at what you got. It was way worse. The reason being that we don't pay attention to the content of what we eat. And that makes a whole world of difference. For example, people should run away from trans fats. People should avoid saturated fat. The only way you can know how much trans fats you have in what you eat is by reading the label. But truthfully, many people do not take time to look at this label, so they don't really know what they're putting inside of them, which is where the quality comes from. Now, the quantity, I'll tell my patients, you know, I don't want you to deprive yourself of everything good. So if we're starting to talk about eating healthy, instead of me telling them, just don't eat bacon at all, I'll tell them, why don't you initially go from 4 pieces of bacon or slices of bacon to 2 or to 1?
Okay.
And that's where the quantity comes in. As we get better, as we know better, then we can go to, how about you transition, or you do a healthy exchange, and instead of having a, say, pork for bacon, you can use turkey
Turkey.
and start
Okay.
making those healthy changes. How about you go with a low calorie loaf of bread rather than going with a high calorie loaf of bread? Instead of eating 4 slices, can you eat 1 slice? And so on and so forth.
I'm laughing, doctor, because when I talk to some of my friends about food, I'm not a food person. I don't eat much. This is why my friends say, that's why you're so skinny. I'm very picky when it comes to food, but I do read labels, right? And when we're talking about food, some of them will ask me, is that all you're going to eat? That small thing? How do we educate them? Like I remember a doctor saying that every time you take a plate, you divide it into 4. Half of it is your veggies, a quarter of it is your protein, and then a quarter is your carbs. I don't, honestly, I'm not going to lie, I don't follow that. But how do we educate people on what to eat? Some people love to eat meat, a lot of meat. I like meat. I don't like chicken, but I've been told that chicken is healthy. How do we educate people on what is good and what is not good? Because with the chicken, it doesn't have labels, as it were. My beef doesn't have trans fat. I don't know all those things. How do I go to the store with the mindset that I'm trying to keep my heart healthy? In other words, what kind of foods would we recommend for women to have healthy hearts? Now, keep in mind, we work, we have regular jobs. We come back home, we take care of the children, we clean their house, we do all kinds of things. And for some of us, our husbands don't, they don't do anything in the house. Some do it. I know you do a lot of work around the house. But for a woman who is going, running on adrenaline, cortisol, and all of that, how do we educate them on what is good when it comes to food?
So before I answer that question, I would quickly tackle the last part of what you said.
Okay.
And as much as I know that you have a passion for women, women are only as good as the men that support them, and vice versa. So this is the point where every single female that's listening to this needs to go drag their husband by the ear and tell them to listen to this part. And I'm being 100% real and factual that everything you said is absolutely correct. And the way that women tend to the glue, the rock of the family and things like that.
Right.
But the truth is, it doesn't always have to be that way. You talked about adrenaline, cortisol. Those are the things that generally hurt women as they get older.
Wow.
Because when you get into that adrenergic state and it becomes a usual or chronic thing, you start to have changes inside your body. Your blood vessels start to go from rubber to plastic, increasing your risk of hypertension and other heart diseases. Because what that is a stress response to your body. And so, my significant other does a lot of work, but I try to take some of that burden off simply because I understand the effect of stress long-term on her. And that is why you have a partner. That is why you have a husband. That is why you have a wife, to help one another, because you're a team. Women don't always have to take on that burden, because over time, those stress hormones that you mentioned would become a burden and a problem to them. Talk about cortisol. A lot of women have issues with their midsection.
Midsection, yeah.
Because once you start having and you're getting into that stress response, you start to build up fat or adipose tissue. And those are the areas that these fatty deposits tend to happen more. And so, men, if you want your women to keep looking great like they were looking when they were 18, you got to help them out of the house. you got to do some work. Take some of that burden off of them. And so now to the food issue, it all starts with education. What you've been doing, what you're doing now is part of it. A lot of times people don't tend to sit down and watch educational videos on what to eat. But having this forum where people can listen in and learn from the things that you're saying, from what you have done research on, from the people that you invite to talk, is one of the very amazing ways that they can be educated. Now, I always say, if you're in doubt, then control your portion. If you don't know what you're eating, if you don't know how many calories it is, then control your portion. So instead of eating 5 of it, just eat 2. So if it's 200 calories each, you just saved yourself 600 calories just by portion control. Now, the next thing is, these days we have a plethora of information online. If you're not sure of what you're eating, there's some food labels that actually have this thing you can scan on it. You scan it and it will bring the information about what you're buying or what you're getting, or the nutritional information if it doesn't have it on the package. Or you can just Google it. How many calories is this? How many calories is that? What is the content of this? What is the content of that? Generally speaking, anything meat tends to be not as healthy as anything that or anything that eats grass is not as healthy. Is not as healthy as anything that swims on the water. So fish, fish products and things like that tend to be healthier than meat.
Meat. Okay. I did not know that.
Generally things that fly, so birds are somewhere in between. And you also have to know how to make it. If you're really worried about high cholesterol and things like that, and you want to start eating more chicken, you need to know how to make the chicken. You can fry, you can deep fry, because that increases the amount of fat. If you want to go all out, you can boil or broil or bake, and you can do it without the skin. I know some people are going to turn off the thing now, because the skin is one of the
that's where all the spices reside. All the spices are in the skin. So you are telling us, well, I don't eat chicken, so I don't like chicken. So I don't even eat the skin. When I do eat chicken, I just eat the lean part of it. But I had no idea that fish was better than meat. Okay.
Fish products are generally healthier than meat, correct.
Okay.
And so those are some of the things that we can do. Proteins are usually a healthier option than carbohydrate. Vegetables are definitely a healthier option than fatty food. So there are general ideas that we all should know. But again, it boils down to, what are you putting in your mouth, and are you reading the label? I can eat fried food 3 times a day, but my food is still healthier than someone that is eating, say, for example, a lot of carbs. It all just depends on how we make it, and what quantity we're eating or drinking.
Thank you. So all of these things we're talking about contribute towards having a healthy heart, because we're talking about heart matters, right? What we eat, what we put in our mouth. Interestingly, we talked about, I had Dr. Adeni on to talk about the empowered woman and her oral health. And she was trying to tell us how the oral health, ties in with the heart and diabetes and all that. But if what we put in our mouth is the right thing, we're working towards having a healthy heart. We need to read our labels to be sure of what we're putting in our mouths. We need to stay away from trans fat. Vegetables are better than carbohydrates. Anything that swims in water is better than anything that feeds on grass. Okay. What else is important for us to keep our hearts healthy? We've talked about stress. Stress has a huge impact not just on the body, but on the heart. I know that.
Right.
But what are some other things that we can do to keep our hearts healthy? We're looking for tips here. Because as a woman, I go to work, I come back, I cook, I'm on my feet all day. What else can I do to make sure that my heart is healthy? I know my family history. And
exercise.
Right. Exercise. Okay.
Exercise is important. And exercise in itself not just helps the heart, but exercising can help to cancel out, so to speak, some of the other negative things that we have picked up or that we're indulging in along the way.
Okay.
For example,
what? Okay.
Your cholesterol is not all bad. So when people say, I have high cholesterol, my first question is, what part of your cholesterol is high?
Okay.
Because the different parts, there's the HDL, which is high density lipoprotein. That's good cholesterol. And the way I like to tell my patients is high is good. And of course, the opposite of high is low.
Okay.
So you have the low density lipoprotein or the bad cholesterol.
Okay.
You want your HDL to be as high as possible. You want your LDL to be as low as possible.
I see.
Your diet is primarily what affects your LDL. So if your LDL is high, they tell you you need to seriously consider changing your diet.
Okay.
Your HDL increases with exercise.
Oh.
And correct. And the higher your HDL, the better for you, because the HDL, which is the good cholesterol, counters the LDL, which is the bad cholesterol.
So how do these two affect my heart, the LDL and the HDL?
So the LDL ultimately is what leads to having plaque deposits in the arteries of your heart.
Oh.
I like to explain plaque as soft cheese.
Soft cheese.
Correct.
Okay.
When the soft cheese breaks away, it goes downstream and it blocks the heart, causing a heart attack.
Oh, okay.
And that is because of your high, one of the reasons is because of your high LDL. That's the bad cholesterol.
I see.
Now, if your good cholesterol is high, it's going to come around and try to mop up that bad cholesterol before it causes trouble.
Okay.
And so the higher your LDL, the higher your risk for heart disease. However, if your HDL is also high, it tends to kind of reduce your risk. And that is how they walk hand in hand.
Wow. So Dr. Ogunbayo, you've talked about a few things this session. You've talked about diet, you've talked about exercise. There's one thing that us women don't like is exercise.
Yeah.
I encourage people to walk, 5, 10, 15 minutes here and there would add up. Right. But that's not something that we'd like to do, because after a long day, you just want to stretch out and all that. But my beloved friends and sisters, empowered women who are watching us today, let's go walking. The benefits of walking are huge. And even though Dr. Ogunbayo may not have the time to talk about the benefits of walking today, we'll get there sometime. But it is important. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, get your significant others out. Both of you need to walk. You know, even though we might not have an opportunity to talk about the benefits of exercise in full, but you know, I'm a firm believer in teamwork and in partnership.
Right.
Your goals become a lot more solidified and easy to accomplish when you partner with your life person.
Right.
For example, if I want to lose weight, but my partner is not A, wanting to lose weight, or B, interested in my goal to lose weight, it will be more difficult.
And if she doesn't join
But
you, if she doesn't join you,
absolutely,
it doesn't, there's no motivation sometimes to do it. But this is
exactly.
where you have to motivate yourself, though.
So self-motivation is great. But if you have a partner, why can't they motivate you?
But if you don't,
Now,
you still need to go
self-motivation
exercise.
self-motivation is important. Without self-motivation, you won't even talk to a partner to help you.
Right, right, right.
But you know, ultimately, you are responsible for your own health. It's great if you have people to support you. That is why we have networks. That is why we talk about, you know, get a friend who has the same goals. It doesn't have to be a male friend. It could be a female friend. It could be a neighbor. Both of you can go out and walk together.
Right.
Because it's a lot easier when two people combine or two people come together to do it. But it starts with you. If you don't have the self-discipline and the self-motivation to get out of the house and walk all the time, to reduce what you eat, to put the work in, then it's going to be very difficult to get it done. So you have to self-motivate. And it's not just about walking. You know, some people would rather do other forms of exercise. Swimming, for example.
Okay.
Swimming is great exercise. It works out a whole lot of muscles that you might not get to work out if you're walking.
Okay.
Things like that are important. Riding a bicycle. Some people love bicycling. You can get a bicycle, ride a bicycle around the neighborhood. That is some form of exercise as well. And if you don't want to ride outside, you can get a stationary bicycle as well and do it at home.
Okay. You can also
So
get
it's
a
not
walking
just,
pad. You can get a walking pad so that when it snows
absolutely.
or it rains and you cannot go out, you just get on your walking pad and you just do like 15 minutes. You're done. If you go to that walking pad twice a day for 15 minutes, that's 30 minutes already.
Correct. And another thing that I always like to point out is it's great to work out, it's great to exercise, but you also need to know the impact of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
If you're not consistent and if you are not aware of how much impact what you're doing is giving you, you might not necessarily have the motivation because you're not going to see results. And what am I saying? You know, if you eat a hamburger, one hamburger, just one, how many miles do you think you need to walk to get rid of the calories you get from that?
I don't remember, but I remember seeing it on your page one day and my jaw dropped.
It's about 8 miles.
Okay.
It's about 8 miles. Now, how many people walk 8 miles in a day?
Not many.
Not a whole lot, except if they don't have a car. So, because even if you walk for 30 minutes on the treadmill, depending on how fast you walk, you are not walking 8 miles. And 30 minutes of brisk walking on a treadmill will probably make you lose about 400 calories at the most. But you're getting at least 800 calories from that hamburger. I'm not talking about the fries that comes with it. I'm not talking about the drink that comes with it.
Correct.
So you're looking at over 1,000 calories if you eat one of those combo meals. But you're on the treadmill for 30 minutes, you're losing just 400.
And you retain 600.
You know, exactly.
And we're
And a
talking
lot of
about the
times,
heart.
Yeah,
Heart
a lot of
matters.
times I tell
So,
people that stuff is going to go somewhere. It's not
right.
going to disappear. And that is how it mounts up. And that is how it builds up. And of course, we know that weight is very important when you talk about your heart.
Wait. Okay, there's so much we have unpacked this evening. Diet, exercise, weight, knowing your family history, all of these things are important. And so we need to take it one step at a time, starting with our family history. Once we know where we stand with the family history, then it helps us to attack, is what you said. I'm kind of paraphrasing what you said. It helps us to attack the issues that may impact our heart. First of all, we're exposed to what our risks are, and then we can attack those risks so that we are not impacted negatively. We need to watch what we put in our mouth. We need to eat healthy. We need to exercise. We need to think of the calories we are consuming and also think of the amount of exercise needed to burn those calories. These are things that would help us, dear empowered women, to keep our hearts healthy. And I pray that God will help us.
Stress management.
Stress management, that's a big one. That's a big one because we women tend to stress ourselves a lot, but God will help us. And we pride ourselves in being macho women. We pride ourselves in being, oh, I don't sleep, I don't, but I'm going to bring a sleep apnea doctor to come talk about sleep. Because when we don't sleep, that adds to the stress. That adds to the pressure on the heart. And then one day you just hear that so just slumped and died. Why? What happened? The stress had mounted, the plaque had mounted in the hearts, not caring what we eat, not minding what we put in our mouths, not exercising, not knowing our family history. And then we just throw everybody into confusion because we did not do the things that we needed to do. My heart these days is for women. And I pray that women will be healthy because I've seen too many women just crumble under stress and break down and die when they didn't have to. So I want to say thank you to you, Dr. Ogunbayo, for coming on to talk to us today. I'm so glad you could make it, and I appreciate everything you have told us. My dear empowered woman, please listen to this video, watch it again if you need to, just to get some nuggets and to make sure that you're putting yourself in a place where your heart is healthy. Why? Your heart matters. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ogunbayo. I pray that you be blessed.
Thank you, ma'am.
And your practice will boom. We're not asking you to go see Dr. Ogunbayo in his clinic. We're just praying that the Lord will bless him. Thank you for your time, and God bless you so much. Amen.
Thank you.
See you all next time. Bye.
So glad you joined us today. Please like, share, and click on the button to subscribe. God bless you. So glad you joined us today. Please like, share, and click on the button to subscribe. God bless you.